and Mars, Jupiter, and Mercury. So Mars for fight, Jupiter for justice, and Mercury for communication. And one point of note here is that here, while Jupiter is Atmakarak, Mercury is Amatyakarak, Mars is the Lagna Lord and the eighth Lord and also the Gyati Karak. So please keep that in mind as we move forward into the analysis of this Kundli. So what we see is that the fighter Lord Mars is with the Justice Lord Jupiter and with the Communication Lord. And one point to be noted that Jupiter is the 12th Lord and Mars is in the 12th house. So that is incarceration, jail. So this person during this period went to jail also, but that only enhanced his public image as a man of the people. So not always the 12th house is bad or good, as we'll see later on. So that was in 2006. So now let's move forward to about 6 years. So around November 2012, this person enters into politics. So again, here the point to note are his dasha, that is Rahu, Jupiter, and Jupiter. So here, if you note in his D1 Kundli, Rahu is in 10th house, in the house of Saturn, and is conjoined with Venus. Venus is the 7th lord, the society. 10th house is the career, and that's the house of Saturn representing the mass. And Jupiter again is his Atmakarak. Now let's deviate and go to a bit of what the learned people say about Rahu. Rahu is the kingmaker. That is what is said. Because he is the one who can change the mind of the people, topple a government and bring a new one. So we see that effect coming into a phase. But then we need to take into account another part, that Rahu is a very treacherous planet. So in this stage, the person is rising. And going back to the what the learned person say is that for the Rahu to make a king, there should be certain conditions available. That is, the Rahu should be associated with the 10th lord or be in the 10th house, and there should be some sort of effect of Amatya Karak or the significator of work. So here we see that Rahu is already in 10th house, in sitting with Venus, who is the 7th lord, the society, representing the society, sitting in the house of Saturn, representing the mass, the public. And the Gemini Dasha was Pisces and Aries. Now, Aries is having an aspect of Jupiter and Mercury, the Gemini aspect, that is the Atmakarak and Amatyakarak. So we see the fulfillment of that condition, that Atmakarak, Amatyakarak are getting triggered, 10th house is getting triggered, and Rahu is here. But please do make a note of it that similar planetary combination, how it will topple this gentleman also. So now come back to a year further in 2013, he gets a landslide victory. Just 1 year in politics and he gets a landslide victory. So the Dasha at that time was Rahu, and Ketu. Now, if we see the transit, and please make a note of it, the transit Ketu was in 1st house, Rahu was in 7th house. Saturn was in 7th house with Rahu, that is representing the society. Jupiter was in Taurus, in the 2nd house, in the house of Venus, who is also the 7th lord. And Mars in 10th house, Jatikarak and the Lagna Lord and the 8th Lord. So we see a sort of a positive change happening. And his Gemini Dasha was Aries, Taurus. And as we said, noted earlier, Aries is having the aspect of Amatyakarak and the Atmakarak, Jupiter and Mercury respectively. In addition, this Taurus has got Saturn, the 10th Lord, into it, who is also the Dharakarak or the 7th Lord here. Consider Saturn here as the Lord of 7. I'm sorry, the 7th Lord, not as the marriage Lord, but as also the representation of the society. So he gets a landslide victory. Now, and he enters into the politics with fanfare. Now let's move to 2015. That is just 2 years down the line. And again, his dasha is Rahu, Jupiter, and Jupiter. So he again wins with a landslide victory. So again, we see that the Rahu present in the 10th lord is coming into force. Now Jupiter has moved into 5th house, the house of sun, which is also the house of position, and sun is again the kingmaker. Mercury is in the 10th house, and Mars is also in the 10th house. So we see a very strange combination here forming out, where he is being formed into a king, because again in February beginning he wins the election, and by the end of the February he is crowned as one of the prominent minister. So here we again see that the planetary combination coming into force, and the Gemini Dasha was Aries Cancer. So again Aries is having the aspect of the Amatya Karak and Atma Karak, and we also see that Cancer is having the moon, the Putra Karak or the 5th lord. So we see that the effect of Pad, that is 5th, is coming into play, effect of Atma Karak, Amatya Karak coming into play, and effect of Rahu coming into play, the kingmaker. Now again, so this is in 2015, and in 2020 again he gets a landslide victory. So again, that was Rahu, Saturn, and Jupiter. Now we come to his downfall. So that was 2020. Now we move forward to August 2022. So here he comes under the CBI radar. So at that time, again he's going through Rahu Dasha, but it is Mercury and Saturn. So Saturn is again the 10th lord and the 11th lord. Mercury is the 6th lord and the 3rd lord. And kindly note that Mercury is also forming a Vipreet Raj Yoga in 8th house in the natal horoscope. Now, so why is this happening? Now, if we see the Dasha and all these things of this thing, we see in transit, Saturn was retrograde in 10th house during this time. The Saturn was retrograde. So the Lord is taking him back to a position, slowly pushing him back to a position from where he came. He was a common man. He now is a minister. So we see a retrograde Saturn. Some events are happening which is pushing him back to his original position. We see that 6th Lord Mercury is just on the verge of entering his own house but now in the house of Sun, at the end of house of Sun, that is Leo. So that is Pad and Padachyuti. So we'll see that how 5th house and also coming into play here. The 5th Lord Sun is transiting in Leo, but it is aspected by Mars. And Mars is also the 8th Lord. It is not only the 1st Lord, it is also the 8th Lord. So we saw initially in 2006, there was a change. From a common man, he went into public life. Now again, a change is coming. The same planets, which was giving him a blessing, is now giving him a lesson also. We won't say a curse because everything is a learning in any person's life. So he is giving a lesson, and the Sun is getting the authority or the kingship, is getting an aspect of the Mars, the Gyati Karak. And the Gemini transit was in this time Taurus, Leo, Taurus. Okay, now in October, somewhere in October mid 2022, the person get now questioned by CBI. Okay, so the Dasha here is Rahu, Ketu, and Ketu. Now, friends, if you remember, when he became a king, his Rahu and Ketu was in 7-1 axis. Ketu in 1st house, Rahu in 7th house. Now it is just the opposite. Rahu is in the first house, Ketu is in the seventh house. So it has just become just the opposite. And we see his trouble starting, or let's put it in a positive sense, as his learning starting about the realities of life. So now, and the other very interesting things that are happening in transit, the sixth lord Mercury, the lord of dispute, and also the Amatya Karak has now moved into his own house. That is the sixth house in transit. The Venus is the seventh lord, which represents his represents the society, and his social image is now highly compassed with the fifth lord Sun. And Jupiter, the 12th lord, is retrograding in the 12th house. So if you remember, he had gone to jail earlier for public service. Now he's pushed back to a similar situation. So that is happening. Rahu Ketu are in 1-7 axis. Mercury, Venus, Sun combo. That is, Mercury, Venus, Sun are now all in the sixth house. In the house of Virgo, that is Mercury, it is aspected by Mars, the Jati Karak. And the Saturn is retrograding in 10th house. So 10th house, some events are getting retrograded, or some older, he's been pushed into some older section of his career. And Moon is in Cancer in both house aspected by Saturn. That is, the public opinion is changing. And the Gemini aspect is Cancer Scorpio. So Scorpio has Jupiter and Mercury both in the natal chart. Now let's move to just a month ahead, end of November, charge sheet form against him. So he has got Rahu, Ketu, Venus in that dasha. And the Mars is in Taurus like it was earlier. Sun, Mercury, Venus are in Scorpio now, aspected by Mars, directly aspected by Mars. Saturn is in own house of Capricorn. Jupiter is in the 12th house of incarceration. And Rahu and Ketu are in 1-7 axis, aspected by Saturn. So we see a reversal of the event, and the Gemini dasha is Taurus, Cancer, Virgo. So Virgo is getting the aspect of Jati Karak Mars. Now let's move a bit ahead to 2023, somewhere in late February, where this gentleman is now getting the dasha of Rahu, Ketu, and Mars. So he's arrested. This gentleman is arrested. Now the combinations are more or less the same. That is Rahu and Ketu are in 1-7 axis. Fourth Lord Moon is now with Mars in Taurus, the Rashi of Venus, that is the society. Sun and Saturn are forming a combo in Aquarius, that is the 11th house. And Saturn is highly combust with Sun. So it is said that if Saturn is combusted, the person thinks that they can achieve any goal at any time. It's a sort of an overconfidence. Because of their overconfidence or ego, and if let's take it as a generalized sense, not on this person per se. So they don't spend a lot of effort or time on the task at hand, or at the learning at hand, or at the problem at hand. Mercury, the 3rd and the 6th lord, is now moved to the 10th house. And the Gemini dasha is Taurus, Cancer, Taurus. Cancer is owned by the 5th lord Putra Karak, the moon, and Taurus has got a DK Saturn into it in the natal chart. And now the last part, when Mercury enters into the Sun Saturn combo in the 11th house of Aquarius, the person is arrested. That is Rahu Ketu Rahu dasha. So somewhere at the very end of February and early March, the Mercury entered the combo of Sun Saturn with Saturn combustion, with the Rahu Ketu axis having the Saturn aspect. He's in, and the Jupiter in the 12th house, the lord of incarceration in the house of incarceration, that is jail. He is taken to jail and he's questioned there. So we see that the same Rahu, which gave him kingship, has also taken it away and brought him back to the place from where he started. So that's all from my side.